Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the various ways that you can connect audio equipment to MainStage. The whole point is to hear the sound of the keys that you're playing. If you can't do that, then why are we even here, right? So the first thing I want to say is that if you're a first-time MainStage or Sunday Keys user, I highly recommend that you just plug a pair of headphones or speakers right into the headphone jack on your computer the first time that you open up MainStage or Sunday Keys. This is because that's what MainStage is going to default to automatically. So if you have problems with your MIDI keyboard or some other setting on your equipment or on your computer, we don't want that to become muddied by wondering if you have your audio equipment connected correctly. So if you're a new MainStage user, or if you're new to Sunday Keys, I highly recommend that you use a pair of headphones just plugged straight into the headphone jack as you're starting to learn how to use Sunday Keys. Or if you don't have a pair of headphones like that, even just using the built-in speakers the very first time that you open up the template is a great idea, so that you know if you have any issues there that it isn't with your audio equipment, it's got to be with your MIDI hardware, with your keyboard or something else. So it just eliminates some variables and helps you get on the right track to solving them right away. Now, after you've figured that out, after you've opened up Sunday Keys for the first time, obviously there's multiple ways that you can get the sound out of your computer and to your soundboard or to front of house, wherever you're sending, that's going to amplify your sound for a live performance. So the way that you select what option you want to use within MainStage is by going up here to MainStage 3 and going down to Preferences and choosing Audio Preferences. The Audio Preference tab here is pretty self-explanatory. Here in the Audio section, you have a drop-down for your audio output, and right now I have my home interface selected, which is the Big Knob Studio. If you don't have anything connected to your computer, then it's going to default to built-in output. And like I was recommending just a second ago, that's where I recommend you start if you're a new MainStage user. So all you would do is select built-in output and then hit apply changes. When you did that, it would take just a second as MainStage reloaded those sounds onto your computer to be ready to send out of the built-in output. So if you want to use the built-in output, there are several options for the type of cable that you can use to get sound out. But the essence of what you need is a cable that is a stereo or TRS 1/8 inch cable, so the size of a headphone cable on one end. And then what you want on the other end are two mono 1/4 inch cables. Typically they're going to be color coded. They might be white and red to represent left and right. We've got some more information on that specifically in the diagram that's below this video, and you can find some recommendations for those cables in the Gear Finder tool on our website. But basically you'd take that 1/8 inch to dual 1/4 inch mono cable, and you'd plug both of those mono cables into a pair of direct boxes, and then those direct boxes would send XLR or microphone cable to your soundboard. If you're only running one line to your soundboard, if your sound system is mono, then you would just use the left cable there, so the white color-coded cable. If they're not color-coded, you could use either one. And then you would want to make sure that here in Sunday Keys, the mono button is turned on in the template. If you don't have this mono button engaged and you're only running one line out, then you're only going to get half of the signal, because by default, Sunday Keys and MainStage runs in stereo. That means half the signal is sent down the left output and half is sent down the right output. But when you press this mono button, then it sums them both so that they're both sending the exact same, and it doesn't matter if you use one or the other. If you had the option to run stereo wherever you play, then I highly recommend it because it sounds really great, but Sunday Keys can work well in mono as well. Now, unless you are a confident MainStage user who knows how to run live instruments through MainStage, then I recommend that you keep your audio input set to none. If you have an audio interface connected, then this is where you'll be able to choose it here in the audio output section. So I have my audio interface connected right here, and it is selected. Now you may ask, what's the point of using an audio interface when there's a headphone jack built in? Well, there's a lot of benefits to using an audio interface. The first being that it is a dedicated output, meaning that if you have any notifications or if somebody tries to give you a FaceTime call or if iTunes starts playing in the background during a performance, it's not going to go out through your audio interface because it's separate and distinct from the built-in output. So that's a really big benefit right there, is that it's dedicated and you know that you're not going to have to worry about remembering to turn on Do Not Disturb and disabling all notifications when you're performing live. The other big benefit in my mind is that an audio interface is generally a more rugged way to get your sound out. The headphone jack is meant for watching Netflix and listening to music on iTunes and watching YouTube videos and things like that. It's not necessarily designed for live sound or studio sound output. So oftentimes folks will find that an audio interface is a more reliable way simply from a physical hardware standpoint. It's less likely to fail over time. You can use 1/4-inch cables, which are more rugged than 1/8-inch cables, and there aren't any adapters in the way. So most audio interfaces connect to your computer over USB. Some connect over FireWire, but most modern interfaces connect over USB. Some interfaces require you to download a driver, but most these days seem to be plug and play, and then you're just able to select it from the audio output. On the back of most audio interfaces, you'll find balanced 1/4-inch instrument cable outputs. Those would plug into direct boxes, and then the direct boxes would run to the soundboard. It's also possible to just use a 1/4-inch to XLR cable and run that XLR cable to your soundboard, but I like to use a direct box in between the 1/4-inch cable and my soundboard because it protects my audio interface if the sound person were to accidentally send phantom power down the line, so that XLR phantom power doesn't make it to my computer, doesn't make it to my audio interfaces. The other real benefit of using a direct box is that you have a ground lift switch on most quality direct boxes, so if you ever have any problems with buzz, with 60 cycle hum, or any noise in the signal, usually a quick flip of the ground lift switch on your direct box can resolve those issues for you. So again, on the diagram that's right below this video, we have these options laid out for you so you can see them visually and decide what works best for you. Plenty of folks do use the headphone jack live. I've used the headphone jack live myself, but like I said, if you can afford to purchase an interface, then I highly recommend doing so. It's a great investment in your live rig. We also have some recommendations for audio interfaces that are below the diagram. You can just click that button and you'll be taken to the audio interface page of the Gear Finder tool on our website. Now, we're here in Audio Preferences, and I'm going to click Advanced Settings right here. The advanced audio settings are largely related to how hard you tax your computer during live performance. Your computer is working hard to deliver the audio out as fast as possible so that when you play keys, you hear the sound right away. It feels nice and responsive. What you don't want is something that feels laggy or like it's not following you as quickly as you'd like. So the large way that you can affect that delay is here in Advanced Settings under Audio Preferences. And the primary setting that affects this is the I/O buffer size. Now, all you need to know about this is a smaller buffer size equals a faster response time between when you play a key and when you hear that note. But smaller buffer sizes also mean that your computer is working much harder to process all of that audio that fast. So I recommend that most MainStage users start with their buffer size set to 128 samples. If that feels a little sluggish to you, then you can try 64 samples, but for many machines that will push your computer too hard. If you notice that your computer seems to be working very hard, if you have problems with patch changes being slow or with your computer running really hot and things feeling sluggish, then you might try increasing your buffer size to 256. At times, depending on the complexity of my MainStage concert, I've even run my buffer at 512 samples, and usually it's still manageable. Now, I'm not going to dig into CPU usage deeply in this video, but just know that one of the quickest ways to affect the responsiveness in balance with how hard you're pushing your computer is by adjusting the buffer size in Advanced Audio Preferences, which is why I wanted to touch on it right now. Now, there's a lot more considerations to take into consideration that affect your CPU usage and your computer performance overall. So make sure to check out the troubleshooting section of the video resources page for more in-depth help and information about managing CPU usage. So that about wraps it up for this video. Be sure to check out the diagram that's right below for a visual representation of the various ways you can connect your hardware. And then if you want some recommendations on audio interfaces we like, just click the button below that to be taken to GearFinder on our website. Now that all your hardware is set up, you can start to check out the tutorials explaining the various features and functions of Sunday Keys by scrolling down a little further on the page, and you'll be able to view all the topics there. I do recommend that you watch the videos in order if you're a new Sunday Keys user, so that you can have a really firm grasp of the various functions of Sunday Keys. Thanks for watching this video.